Disney finally brings back FastPasses. Well, sort of. It's not quite as good as it used to be, and you kind of have to pay for it, but hey, at least it's back, and at least it's not Genie Plus. Today we're going to break down this new Disney single and multi-pass skip the line system, give you all the details, and make sure you have all the information you need to decide whether or not it's going to be worth it for you and how to get the most bang for your buck. Alright, Disney has finally brought back the FastPass system, which I'm tentatively referring to as the FastPass minus system. After all the backlash that's been happening and the negative guest feedback on the convoluted Genie Plus system, I will say, just on record, and I've said it before in videos, Genie Plus, individual lightning lane, all that stuff is probably the most convoluted system ever created. So I don't think anyone is going to be sad to see that thing go. So I think we're all pretty excited about the news that the FastPass system, FastPass Minus, is now coming back. So let's get right into it. This new system goes into place July 24th of 2024. So depending on when you're watching this video, it might already be in place. So at a high level, let's really quickly talk about what this FastPass Minus system is. First of all, it's a skip the line system. That's the best way to refer to it. It's a system that allows you to essentially skip the standby line. It doesn't mean you won't have to wait in any sort of line. It just means that your wait time is going to be a lot less, and you might get the advantage of just being able to walk straight on the ride depending on how crowded it is. There are three basic components to this. There is the lightning lane, the single pass, and the multi-pass. The lightning lane is essentially the physical lane that you will return to for your ride. It's the physical lane in the park at the actual attraction that you will enter in order to use your pass. So when people talk about the lightning lane, they kind of refer to it as the whole system that we're going to be talking about, lightning lane. It's even under the lightning lane section within the My Disney Experience app, and they're kind of referring to it as lightning lane. But the actual passes and getting them and purchasing them is the single pass and the multi-pass. So technically, if you think of the lightning lane, that's the physical lane that you will return to in the park. The single pass is basically a replacement for the individual lightning lane system. So if you're familiar with that back in the Genie Plus days, that's what that is. The multi-pass is basically the replacement of Genie Plus, which is essentially very similar to what the FastPass system of old used to be.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but every time I hear the words multipass, all I can think of is Lilu Dallas Multipass. So any of you Fifth Element fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. So how much is it? How much is this single and multipass experience pass is going to be? Well, we don't know the numbers 100%, but it's going to be variable pricing just like Genie Plus and individual lightning lanes are today, or as of this filming of this video, which is going to be around $20-ish, maybe $30 for an individual single pass purchase, which we'll talk about what these things are in a minute. The multi-pass replacement of Genie Plus is probably going to be about $25 to $35 depending on the day, so the price will fluctuate. So when can you buy it? How do you actually purchase it? When can you buy it? So you'll purchase it on the My Disney Experience app. If you don't have any familiarity with this My Disney Experience app, download it on your phone. It's your key to the kingdom. Trust me, you're going to need it. You not only need it to purchase it, but you're going to need it to update your reservations, and you're going to need it to actually get your fast passes, get your multi passes to actually get your reservations for these rides. So you've got to have the My Disney Experience app. Don't sleep on it. Download it if you're going to use this system. So the actual time for when you can purchase it and use it is going to vary depending on whether you are a hotel guest or a non-hotel guest of a Disney property. The time is 7 a.m. Eastern time. That's the magic hour. 7 a.m. Eastern time is the first time you can actually purchase and or make your reservations for your rides. However, if you are a hotel guest, one of the Disney or Disney Good Neighbor type hotels, you will be able to make your reservations and purchase the single and multi-day passes 7 days prior to your first reservation or your first ticket stay. So if you're an annual pass holder, whatever your first reservation day is for a park, and you're staying on property, 7 days prior to that is when you can actually get this. If you have a single day ticket, or even a multi-day ticket, whatever the first day for that ticket is for that particular park is when you'll actually be able to buy this. For non-hotel guests, it's only a 3-day window. So it's 3 days before your first eligibility to be able to buy this. So that is a perk that they've now brought back for hotel guests. So we've talked a lot about in our videos the lack of perks. Disney constantly taking perks away for hotel guests, which is giving less and less incentive for people to stay in Disney hotels versus staying somewhere else. This is actually a perk that they've brought back now. It's not as good of a perk as what the old FastPass system was, but it's still a good perk. You can only use these passes, whether it's the multi-day or the single days, you can only use them to ride a ride one time. You cannot use this to constantly rebook the same ride. For example, if you love Space Mountain, you can't book it for Space Mountain and then book Space Mountain again and again and again all throughout the day. You only get to use it once per ride. Now let's talk about how each one of these things work. We'll start off with the multi-pass. In order to use this, you're going to go into the My Disney Experience app, you're going to go to the Lightning Lane area in the app, and you're actually going to purchase it from that spot. You simply just click on that multi-pass option, which will have a price, which again, the price will be variable depending on the day. You purchase it, and then you can go in and make your selections for your parks. Now, when you first get the multi-pass, you can select up to 3 passes at a time. Old Genie Plus was 1 at a time. 1, and that was it, and you had to wait. This one is back to the FastPass, which is basically you can pick 3 attractions at one time upon starting this out. So once you fill up those 3 attractions, you gotta wait for more. Once you got those 3 passes booked, you're good for the day, you're ready to roll, get to the park, and you can actually use them when it's time, so it'll give you an actual window of time for each of those passes. You'll see, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, or whatever hours were available or you selected there. That's your window of return time. As long as it's in that window of time, you'll go back to the attraction. So go to, for example, Space Mountain. You'll show them that or you'll scan it. You'll walk right through that Lightning Lane entrance and skip the line. You can book your next attraction when you use one of the attractions. So once you consume and use that attraction, basically as soon as you scan it in, you can now book a new one. So you can always have 3 at a time if you want. You can always have 3 running. So as soon as you use one, you can add a new one as soon as it's gone. Or when that window expires. So for example, if you weren't able to make your Space Mountain and it's now past your time, so if, say it was 10 to 11, it's 11:01, you can now book a new one. The 120-minute rule that used to exist in the old Genie Plus, I don't want to talk about what it was. It's gone now. So put that out of your mind. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So those are the 2 ways. Use it or lose it and book a new one. Now again, just to be clear, once you enter that Lightning Lane queue, you still may have a wait. Still may be 15-minute wait, 20-minute wait, half an hour wait. It depends. Usually it's pretty quick. Sometimes it's walk on. Usually it's only a couple of minutes, but there will be, it's not a guarantee that you won't have to wait in line at all. But if it says 90-minute for Big Thunder Mountain and the Lightning Lane entry using your pass is probably only going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. So another thing that they've brought back is the tiering system of attractions. If you're not familiar with this, the tiering system basically means there's a top tier of attractions and there's a bottom tier of attractions. Technically, there's even a tier above that, which we'll get to in the single passes. Basically, top and bottom tier attractions. So again, like we said, you can choose 3 attractions, but you can only choose 1 from the top tier of attractions and all the rest you can choose from the bottom tier. If you don't want to choose a top tier attraction, you can put all 3 of them against the bottom tier. But at maximum, you can only have 1 of the top tier. If you want to know what order to book, don't overcomplicate it. It's pretty simple. Top tier, you're going to want to look at the ones that are going to be the highest wait times, that are also usually the most family-friendly attractions, because those tend to have the longest lines throughout the day. Those are the ones that tend to go first, meaning that the reservations will be gone. So if you're not fast enough getting one, they could actually be all gone and you'll not even get to use it for that ride at all for the day. So things like Slinky Dog Dash tend to go really quickly. So right at 7 o'clock in the morning, you may look for Slinky Dog Dash and the first available time is like 7 p.m. And if you wait too long, it might just be gone for the whole day and you won't even get to ride it unless you ride standby. So plan kind of accordingly for those types of ride. The more intense roller coasters that are not as family friendly, those will go slower. So you can kind of wait on reserving those. Or just book all your favorite attractions first. It's pretty simple. Don't overcomplicate it. So let's really quickly go through the top tier attractions so you know which ones are in that category. At Magic Kingdom, there is Big Thunder Mountain, Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Space Mountain, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now you probably noticed that I didn't say Tron or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. That's because they fall into a super premium category, top tier, if you will, where you can't actually use it for the multi-pass. You have to pay extra for that. We'll get to that in just a minute. At Epcot, the top tier rides are going to be Frozen Ever After, Soarin', and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. At Hollywood Studios, you've got Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Slinky Dog Dash. And then at Animal Kingdom, there are no top tier rides. All of them are included. They're all bottom tier rides, so you don't have to worry about that, except for the super top tier ride at Animal Kingdom, which again, we'll talk about in just a second. One of the questions people have been asking is, what if I have multiple parks? What if I'm not just going to one park? Because when you first get your multi-pass, when you first purchase it, you can only select 3 attractions from one park. You can't do 1 from this park and 2 from this park. You have to choose all 3 from whatever park you are going to or you have the reservation for annual pass holders. That's what you're going to get your reservation for. So if you want to actually book in other places as well, so if you have a park hopper ticket, for example, you can start booking other parks, other attractions from, say, Epcot if you're at Magic Kingdom, after you start using your first 3. So as soon as you're done using one of the first 3 and you go to add a new attraction, you can pick another park. So again, plan accordingly for that, because thinking through where you're going to be later in the day and what you're going to want to use early, be very careful about this, because if you know you're going to be going to Epcot later and you're at Magic Kingdom, you don't want to book one of your multi-day passes for 6 p.m. that night. So if you're not paying attention, and you know, and all of a sudden you go over to Epcot later in the day, well, that 6 p.m. one is locked. I mean, you're gonna have to, you can either give it up, which you can actually unselect and give it up and select something new, or you're gonna have to wait for that one to expire before you can choose another one. So plan accordingly, but again, you can release them, which is great. So if you do accidentally plan for something later that night and you end up going to a different park, just release it, get rid of it, and change it to something else. Now let's talk about the single pass, aka the old individual Lightning Lane pass. First things first on this one, you do not need to buy the multi-day pass in order to take advantage of and purchase the single day pass. This single day pass is used for the super special rides, and it has an additional charge. So again, the price range is going to vary, 20 to 30 bucks for one ride, one person per day. So it can be pretty pricey. You could spend, for a family of 4, you could be talking $80 to $100 for one ride, one time. So I want to make sure we're clear. You cannot use the multi-pass for this. You have to purchase this ride or wait in standby or do virtual queue. So again, the same section in the My Disney Experience app, you're gonna go in there into the Lightning Lane area, and you're gonna look for the attractions you want, and you're going to purchase whichever one you want. So you see Tron Light Cycle Run, 20 bucks-ish. You're gonna click that, buy it, you're good to go, select a time, you're cool. Go to that ride when it's ready. One thing that's different though, when you do go to return to that ride, you do wanna be in that hour-long window they give you. But with the single day passes, they're a little bit more flexible on you missing your time. So if you're a little bit late to that one, they're gonna let you in because you paid extra for that. For the multi-day pass option, if you miss your window, you're probably not very likely to actually get on the ride. So that's a little bit of different. Multi-day passes, really try to stay in that window. Unless something crazy happens, you can go to guest services and they'll help you out. They'll take care of you. But the single passes, you can kind of be a little bit more flexible. They're much more forgiving about that because you paid so much extra just to ride that one ride. They'll let you on. So let's go through these super premium pay as you ride attractions. For Magic Kingdom, there are 2. You've got Tron Light Cycle Run and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. At Epcot, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. At Hollywood Studios, you've got Rise of the Resistance in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And then at Animal Kingdom, you've got Flight of Passage in the World of Pandora there, the Avatar ride. Now, one of the caveats with the single passes is that you can only buy 2 of them per day, per person, which means you cannot buy this single pass for all of these premium rides. You've got to choose which 1 or 2 that you want to ride that day. You cannot jump between all the parks and ride all 5 of these premium rides. And just like the other one, you cannot ride the same twice. So once you purchase it, you don't get to ride it again unless you wait in the standby. Just like the multi-pass, when it's your time, head to the lane, the Lightning Lane, you'll get right in there and you'll wait, a lot less time, maybe 5, 10, 15, maybe up to 30 minutes, depending on if the ride had broken down at one point, but it'll be pretty quick. Now let's talk about the virtual queue or the standby. Again, you don't need to buy these passes. You can do standbys. So if you want to ride an attraction a second time, you're gonna have to wait through the standby. Same thing for the single passes. But there is the virtual queue. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind does not have a standby queue at all. So you can purchase the single pass to ride Guardians of the Galaxy. But if you wanted to ride it again the same day, you will have had to have gotten a virtual queue. I have lots of videos on how to get the virtual queue. It breaks it all down in detail. I'll link to it below, but I have one specifically for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. You're going to want to check that out if you want to ride it without paying, or if you want to ride it twice in one day. So those are the big details. Is it worth it? That's the question. So is it worth it? Should we buy the multi-pass and the single pass? Is it worth it? Is it needed? Well, is it needed? I'm going to say no. It's not needed. Is it worth it? I'm going to say it depends. Depends on you. Depends on if you don't feel like waiting in rides. Depends on how long you plan on staying at the parks. Depends on if you're going to try and rope drop something, or if you're planning on staying super late, or if you don't have a bunch of money just laying around, you'd rather spend it on a really nice dinner instead of riding rides a little bit faster. It's up to you whether it's worth it. I personally, I don't ever use them because I don't need to. I go to the parks all the time. I don't need to. But if there's that one ride that you just want to make sure and guarantee you're going to get to ride, could be worth it. So what are my overall thoughts on this FastPass Minus? Why am I calling it FastPass Minus instead of just calling it the FastPass system returned, or the multi-pass, or the single pass? Again, it's very similar to the FastPass system that they had of old. But there's a few differences, and let's just go through them. So the first thing is, everything's not included. In the old FastPass system, all the rides were in the FastPass system. There was no single pass super premium ride. The tier system existed, but every ride, every attraction was either in the top or the bottom tier. There was no special ride held aside that you had to pay additional money for. You're really not getting as much as you used to from the old FastPass system. Second thing is, you used to be able to book your FastPasses up to 60 days for hotel guests and 30 days for non-hotel guests. So that was a lot earlier you could plan your trip, and a lot bigger of a window, 60 versus 30 days versus now it's 7 and 3 days. You had a bit more of a window of time to get your fast passes selected. The third and the biggest is that it's now a paid system. It used to be free, or you could say it used to be included in the price of your hotel package or your tickets or whatnot. And I realize that people keep trying to make that argument. They're like, hey, you know, it wasn't free because you were paying for it just in your pricing. Yeah, I get that, but not really. Because if you think about the amount of money, so let's just say you spent a week at Disney, 7 days going to the parks. If you bought this system, let's say $25 per person for a family of 4, you're talking $100 per day for just the multi-pass. That's an extra $700 that you're paying for just the multi-pass. Now add into that potentially another $100 for these premium attractions. Now you're talking another $100 per day, $700 for the week. You're talking $1,400 extra dollars for essentially the same service that you were getting for free. So unless I'm misremembering, which I'm not, the price of a Disney vacation package, if you include the ticket prices and the hotels, was definitely not $1,400 more than, or $1,400 less, I should say, than what you're paying now for a Disney vacation. So maybe, yes, a little bit of it was baked in, but certainly not the prices that it is now. And the last thing is stress, the stress level of selecting all these attractions. And you're probably saying, well, why? Why is it so much more stressful than the old FastPass system? Well, because the old FastPass system, it was included. Like, you got it, which meant you didn't feel like you wasted it if you didn't make the most out of it. You weren't stressed out about, I gotta get the most out of my multi-pass ticket or my single pass ticket. Like, you just used it. So what we would actually end up doing is we wouldn't stress it at all. We'd basically just go, I don't know, let's look at 3 of the popular attractions. We'll stack those at maybe, let's say, 6, 7, and 8 for that night. And then we'll go early in the morning and just ride stuff before the lines get long. We'll head over to Epcot. We'll get there early. We'll ride a bunch of the stuff before it gets super crowded. Then we'll head back to the pool. We'll lounge at the hotel, have a great day. And then we'll go over to Magic Kingdom where we got our fast passes for 3 of them stacked in a row, and we'll ride all those awesome popular rides without really having to wait at all. And then maybe ride a few other things in between, and maybe stay another hour or 2 after that and ride some stuff. And it was just easy breezy. It wasn't stressful at all. Now, you're on your phone, you're trying to get it super fast, you feel like you got to get the most bang for your buck, you got to get the most money out of it. As soon as one's gone, you try to replace it right away, and if you don't get something, you're like, oh, I got to wait till later. So it's just a lot more stressful, I think, now than it used to be with the FastPass system, because you didn't feel obligated to take full advantage of it. You felt good about yourself if you just used it a little bit, and you're like, yeah, this is nice, this is a nice perk. So overall, that's the full breakdown. That's the multi-pass, single pass. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with me? Is it FastPass minus, or do you think I'm crazy? At the very least, you have to agree it's better than the Genie Plus system and the individual Lightning Lane stuff. I mean, that just was a nightmare. I don't think anybody liked that. So I'm glad that they actually have brought a perk back for hotel guests. I'm glad that they've uncomplicated it a bit and brought back sort of the old FastPass system. I think it is a positive change. Is it as great as it used to be? It really isn't. But hey, it's a step in the right direction. So let us know what you think. Love to hear from you in the comments. Be sure to check out all of our other videos below. Lots of links down there in the description. You're going to want to check out some of those. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and until we see you next time, the Noble Way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.